Welcome back, everyone. I haven't posted in a while, but after seeing this game, I knew I had to share it. In this game, you're going to see Stockfish 17 sacrifice a rook and then walk its king up the board in the middle of the game. Prepare yourself for Stockfish 17 brilliance. The game begins with d4 and g6, the modern defense. e4 from Stockfish. If you can put two pawns in the center, then it's generally a good idea. Bishop g7 and knight c3. Here Torch plays an interesting move, a6. This move prepares b5 with a queenside expansion and prepares to put the light square bishop on b7. g3 from the fish, preparing to put the bishop on g2. b5, bishop g2, bishop b7, and then knight e2, keeping the bishop's diagonal open and preparing a future f4. Knight f6 from black, developing the knight. Castles and b4 from black, attacking the white knight and trying to remove a defender from the central pawn. Knight d5 from Stockfish, the only way to not lose the e4 pawn. Black then castles. Knight takes d5 is also an option. The downside is that while white does get double pawns, the double pawns create a significant space advantage and restrict black's bishops and knight. White now plays a3, trying to get rid of the b4 pawn so he can open up the rook and play c4. White doesn't take the pawn with the knight, as then the center pawn will fall. A 5 from black, defending the pawn. Knight takes f6 check from white, and black has to recapture with the pawn. If black took with the bishop, then after e5, he would have to take on g2. King takes g2, bishop g7, and then it takes b4, and black can't recapture due to the now hanging rook. White would have won a pawn. After pawn takes, white develops the bishop to e3 and Torch takes on a3. Here Stockfish takes with the rook. Stockfish keeps its pawns together, activates the rook horizontally and vertically, and will put pressure against the now isolated a5 pawn. Rook e8, putting the rook on the semi-open file, and now d5 from the fish. This move prevents black from breaking with d5 and restricts both the light and dark square bishops. Black's light square bishop is now stuck, and he can never play f5 to get the dark square bishop out, due to e takes f5 with a ruined pawn structure to follow. d6 from black, creating a square to develop the knight to. c4 from white, expanding on the queen side with potential c5 ideas. c5 from black, preventing knight d4 and a future c5 from white. But c5 has now weakened the b5 square, so Stockfish now plays knight c3 to try and go to b5. Knight d7 and then knight b5 hitting d6. Knight e5 from Torch hitting c4. b3 from the fish defending. Queen b8 from Torch, applying pressure down the b file and continuing to defend d6. Bishop d2 from Stockfish. A small improving move attacking a5. Bishop a6 attacking the knight and knight c3. Stockfish could have just grabbed a pawn here with rook takes a5, but it thinks that retreating the knight is stronger. Bishop c8 from Torch, and now Stockfish plays f4, further expanding on the king side, kicking out the black knight and preparing to suffocate Torch. Knight d7 and g4. This is the beginning of a masterful attack. Knight b6 with ideas of a4, and now f5 from the fish. This move kills black's dark square bishop and prepares the insane move e5, in which Stockfish will try to clear out the e4 square for its knight. Because e5 is on the way, Torch plays knight d7, further controlling e5. Bishop f3, preparing to reposition the bishop. Knight e5 and bishop e2. Rook e7, preparing a rook lift. Queen e1, preparing to rotate over the queen. Rook b7 hitting b3 and knight b5 from the fish, blocking the file and opening an attack on a5. Bishop d7. The black bishop is bad, so it will try to exchange itself for the knight. Queen g3 and then bishop takes b5. C takes b5 and then queen e8 from Torch, applying pressure to the b5 pawn and down the e-file. Rook a1 hitting the a5 pawn and rook a7 defending. Now Stockfish plays rook a4, blockading the pawn and defending the e4 pawn. Knight d7, preparing knight b6, with a knight blockade that also attacks the white rook. Bishop c3, improving the bishop and applying constant pressure to f6. Stockfish doesn't want to take on d6, as after bishop f8, black's pieces will start to come into the game. Queen e7 from black defending both pawns and clearing the 8th rank for the rooks. King g2, improving the king. The king walk is soon to come. Knight b6. Now if Stockfish moves the rook, then the whole position falls apart. So Stockfish doesn't move the rook and instead plays the brilliant bishop d3, defending the e4 pawn and letting the rook die. Knight takes a4 and b takes a4. Stockfish has a protected passed pawn, 2 monster bishops, and a space advantage, whereas Torch is being suffocated and has minimal piece activity. Rook e8 and rook b1 supporting the pawn. Queen d8, queen f3, and rook b7. Stockfish will now slowly outmaneuver Torch. h4, expanding on the king side, and h6 from Torch. Stockfish wants to break with e5 exploding the center and launching a devastating attack on the black king. c4 from Torch attacking the bishop, bishop c2, and rook e7 preventing e5. King h3 and g takes f5 from Torch. G takes f5 from Stockfish and king h7 from Torch. Look what Stockfish has done to the black position. The rooks and queen cannot do anything. Stockfish has now used its pawns to paralyze the black bishop. But how's Stockfish going to make progress? That's right, it's going to bring its king. King g4 from Stockfish. Rook g8 lining up the rook with the king, but now king h5 from Stockfish. The king will hide on h5 while also serving as an attacking piece to apply pressure to h6. Rook b7 and queen e3, tying down the black bishop to the defense of h6. Bishop f8 and bishop d1, preparing to reposition to attack c4. Queen e8, rook f2, rook b8 and b6. Rook c8, rook b2 supporting the pawn, queen e7, and queen f4 improving the queen. Rook b8, bishop e2 attacking c4, rook e8 attacking e4, and now bishop f3 defending. Rook b8 and rook b5. Stockfish is slowly squeezing the life out of Torch. Queen e8, queen e3, and then rook c8. Rook takes a5, and now Torch immediately moves its rook to a8 with a trade incoming. This follows the principle that if you're ahead in material, then you should try and trade pieces. Rook takes a8, queen takes a8, and a5. Stockfish has 2 connected pass pawns that are quickly rolling up the board, all while black can't move his kingside pieces. Queen a6, trying to blockade the pass pawns, but now Stockfish hits Torch with another amazing blow. e5. If you take with the f pawn, then after f6, the light square bishop will come to destroy the black king. Torch therefore takes with the d pawn, but this allows d6 with another pass pawn. Black can never take this pawn with the bishop due to queen takes h6, made possible because of the king on h5. Queen c8 from Torch trying to monitor all the pawns, and now bishop e4 defending f5. Queen d7 and queen d2 defending the d6 pawn. Queen takes d6 and Torch wins the d6 pawn. But Stockfish doesn't mind this and trades queens. Bishop takes, and now we see why Stockfish didn't mind trading pieces. The 2 queenside pass pawns are too strong for black's defenses, and Stockfish will now try to queen the pawns. a6, bishop c5, bishop a5 defending, and c3 from Torch pushing his own pass pawn. a7, bishop f2, bishop takes c3, bishop takes b6. a8 queen, rook takes a8, and bishop takes a8. Stockfish is now up a minor piece. Bishop e3 centralizing and defending h6. Bishop b4, king g7, king g4, e4, h5, bishop d4, and now bishop takes e4. Stockfish is slowly picking up the remaining pawns. It's instructive how the fish put its pawns to restrict the black king, and on the light squares so it can't be attacked by the black bishop. Bishop a1, king f3. This is now a super instructive king walk from Stockfish. Watch how Stockfish walks its king to e7 and targets the pawn on the light square, as black cannot defend it. Bishop takes f7, king g7, king e8, bishop a1, bishop e3, bishop b2, bishop f8 check, king h8, king f7, king h7, bishop c2, bishop c3, and after bishop e7, white will win the pawns and make a queen. A lovely game from Stockfish 17 with a fascinating king walk. Now, if you want to further improve your chess, this video will contain a study plan, resources, and an overall step-by-step guide of what you need to do to improve your chess. The video has different rating levels, so whether you're a beginner or advanced player, the video is sure to help you improve. Thank you so much for watching. Now go promote some pawns,